All right, we are starting on chapter 8, which is about algebraic equations. We've been doing some work on algebraic expressions in chapter 7, but this time with algebraic equations, we add in the equal sign, which means when we have equations, that's when we're going to be solving them to find out what that variable equals. So the key that you need to understand with equations is that you must isolate the variable. And what isolate means is that you just need to get it by itself. And so I wrote some examples here that we're going to go through. And so you see that the variable in all three of these examples is with something else. And so we're not able to figure out what that variable equals without doing a little bit of work because it's not isolated. And so once you have the variable isolated, then you know that whatever is on the other side of that equal sign is what it's going to equal. So an example would be x equals blank or y equals blank. And so whatever that is means that you've done the work to isolate this. There's nothing else with it. It's just by itself. Okay. So of course, this one's super easy and we know in our head right away what the answer is, but I still want to go over what operation you would use in order to isolate the variable. And so what you see here is that you see x minus 7 equals 4, and so you see that this is a negative 7, or it's subtracting 7, and so we need to do the opposite in order to get rid of it. And what I mean by get rid of it is we have to move it from where it is here to the other side of the equal sign. Okay, and so we are going to add it to itself because a negative 7 plus 7 is going to equal 0, and those cancel each other out and leave nothing on this side. But because this is an equal sign, you have to do what you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. And so we've added 7 here, which means we need to add 7 on this side. And so 4 plus 7 is 11, and so we know that x equals 11. The variable has been isolated, and everything over here on the right side is now part of the solution. Okay, let's look at this next example. So now there are a couple parts that we're going to do in order to find the solution for y. First, my recommendation is always work on the sections that are not attached to the variable first. That means that you want to get rid of this 6 before you start dealing with this 3y over on this side. So I see a plus 6 here, so the opposite is I'm going to subtract it away, and that cancels. And so I need to subtract it on this side because it is equal, and I have to do what's on here to this side as well. So 21 minus 6, that's going to leave me 15. I'm going to write that here. And then I have this left, so I'm going to rewrite this over here. So 3y equals 15. So that's what I have left over because I've gotten rid of that 6 on both sides and it's gone. And so now I'm asking myself, well, what is happening here operationally? Well, I know that if I have a number and the variable, they're being multiplied. So the opposite of that is division. So I'm going to divide this by 3. And so what happens? That's going to cancel and leave me 1, and when it's with a variable, it's just 1, it's nothing. We don't do anything with it. And so if I do it to this side, I have to do it to this side. So I'm going to divide this by 3. So y equals 15 divided by 3 is 5, and that's my solution. And this last one here is 1/3 n equals 6. And so I have a couple of things here. Because I have a fraction, I'm dividing. And so what I could do is I could multiply it by, well, what's the opposite of this fraction? It's reciprocal when we flip it the other way. So now I can multiply it by its reciprocal, and that will give me 1. And that cancels it out, and that's fine. And now I bring that 3 over 1 over to this other side, and I can multiply it here. And so n equals 6 times 3 over 1, which is 18. And that's my solution here. So if you look at all these examples, and many other examples you're going to find in the book, it's just a set of steps going step by step by step in order to get rid of the numbers that you don't need, in order to isolate that variable by itself to get the solution.